I'm joined now by Congressman Mike Gallagher of the northeastern part of the state. This is a district from Fond du Lac up through Green Bay and the Door County Peninsula along a portion of the UP border. He traveled with Vice President Pence yesterday as they stopped in Green Bay to urge Nancy Pelosi to, for heaven's sake, pass the USMCA. This is the renegotiated NAFTA. Good morning, Congressman Gallagher. How are you?
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Am I wrong to say that it's Nancy Pelosi and Pelosi alone who's standing in the way of the vote to ratify the USMCA and give American farmers and factory workers this win? She could call the vote tomorrow, right?
100%. But I guess we should say it's not just Pelosi standing in the way. It's Pelosi caving to the far left elements in the Democratic Party who quite simply do not want to give President Trump a win. This would be a massive win, not only for the administration, but for America and particularly for Wisconsinites. They cannot deny that. It's great for Wisconsin dairy in particular. But as far as, the labor interest out there, this is the most pro-labor multilateral trade agreement in recent history. So none of their arguments have merits. This is simply about politics. And this is all about denying President Trump a win. And so that's why it's so important that the vice president came to Northeast Wisconsin and talked about this. We had a great visit to the shipyard in Marinette. And we need everybody to put pressure on the Democrats in our delegation, but ultimately Nancy Pelosi to put this thing on the floor. Let's get the win for Wisconsin.
Right. They say, I know that they want to deny Trump any win, but they're really denying the American people a win. This would open up so many new opportunities for Wisconsin businesses and American businesses. Pelosi claims the Democrats are making sure the trade deal can be enforced before she agrees to approve it. That's really just playing games, too. Recently, she's been scheming for a way to tie some Democrat win to it. Can we force the Republicans to agree to some environmental win? Or some win on bullying prescription drug makers? It gives away the game. She just doesn't want any sort of Republican victory here.
And I will say the president's trade team, the U.S. Trade Representative, Robert Lighthizer, has been exceptionally energetic in engaging with Nancy Pelosi. They've come to her from the start and asked for ideas on what they want, what they need. So they're actually trying to, in good faith, satisfy their concerns to the extent they exist, honestly, which I doubt that they do. But the fact is, when it comes to intellectual property, which has implications for pharmaceuticals, this agreement modernizes and places high standards for intellectual property. It sets the gold standard, makes sure no one can cheat, which will in turn drive economic growth and support American jobs. As I mentioned before, for Wisconsin dairy farmers, it takes steps to end Canada's unfair milk pricing program, which puts our dairy farmers at a disadvantage. And as for labor, and we want to support labor, we've got a lot of hardworking people in the labor industry in Wisconsin, but this makes new enforceable labor standards a core part of the agreement. So on every substantive issue, there is no way they can say this doesn't represent advancing the ball down the field. And again, I hate to say it, and I hate to sound cynical, but I've analyzed this from every different way, and I've concluded this is all about 2020 politics. So hopefully she'll come to her senses, and hopefully we can get a win.
Well, and I think everyone in Washington, D.C. knows this would be a partisan win as well. She has Democrats in flyover country, in ag states and manufacturing states, that would vote for this. So it really isn't a matter of her even defending her party so much as she's just playing politics for next year. And I've talked about this regularly, the USMCA, because I want my listeners to know, especially the farmers and factory workers in this audience, I want them to know which side is holding this up. The Democrats want to blame Trump for trade wars. This is a Trump victory a year ago. She refused to finalize it. And I can speak generically about Pelosi's refusal and how refusing to enact this harms Wisconsin. How is it impacting your district, or how could it? I mean, who would be helped in your more rural and small town district with something like this?
Well, listen, all of Wisconsin is America's dairyland, but and I'll admit I'm biased because, I'm a Green Bay guy and I think the 8th district's the best district in the state. But, we have a ton of small, medium, large dairy farms that right now the dairy market is going through a tough time. Milk prices have been low for a while now, and they need access to foreign markets. We export $10.5 billion to Canada and Mexico alone. That's not just dairy. I mean, that's a lot of different things, but it would continue to have markets. For example, we sell a lot of cheese to Mexico. We want to make sure we continue to sell more cheese to Mexico. As I said before, it would help our dairy farmers in Northeast Wisconsin by forcing Canada to take steps to end their unfair milk pricing system. And I think it really has a lot of provisions more broadly that will set the foundation for future trade agreements that are both free and fair. For example, we know that our friends in the UK are going through a very difficult debate right now over Brexit, what they want their trading relationship to be with the EU and what they want their political relationship to be with the EU. As soon as they are done negotiating an exit to their European Union, it is my belief that we should be there waiting with a gold standard trade agreement that ties our two economies more closely together, because they're two very modern economies, and we stand to have a win-win trade agreement that can set the gold standard for bilateral trade agreements going forward.
I think it's a great point. We're talking with Congressman Mike Gallagher. Mitch McConnell tweeted yesterday, Democrats claim impeachment won't keep them from legislating, but Speaker Pelosi has refused to allow a vote on the USMCA for months. It appears there's no governing priority, no matter how bipartisan, no matter how beneficial to Americans, that won't take a backseat to impeachment. That's now, I think, irrefutable, and we just need every voter to know it. You're back in the district a lot. You're doing your town halls. What are you hearing from your constituents when it comes to impeachment and this attempt to remove Trump before 2020?
Well, listen, I understand that there are a lot of people on the other side of the aisle that have been committed to impeachment since day one that President Trump got elected. I think that's unfortunate. I think Americans of all political stripes should want the President of the United States to succeed. But that's where we are. But what I hear from people that I would say are in the middle in Northeast Wisconsin, common sense Wisconsinites that maybe don't pay attention to MSNBC and Fox News every single day, or just trying to live their lives and earn a living, what I hear from them is a simple message. It's, why can't you guys do your job? Why can't you guys stop the endless partisan warfare and just do your job? Pass the USMCA, make some progress on health care, controlling costs, expanding coverage. Just do your job and don't spend all your day lobbing bombs on cable news. And that's why it was particularly important that Vice President Pence at Marinette yesterday talked about the fact that the impeachment focus and vortex is screwing up things beyond USMCA. Right. It's screwing up our ability to rebuild the military, because right now we're about to pass another continuing resolution that is a bad way to budget, that will force the Pentagon to waste money, which means that those thousands of Wisconsinites and some Michiganders that are going to work in the Marinette shipyard every single day to try and build Navy ships, they're going to have more uncertainty, and we're not going to be able to do right by them, and we're not going to be able to do right by our warfighters. So It has devastating implications across the board.
Well, and the average person, I think, here is, okay, they did a continuing resolution that's just going to keep us, keep government funded, and we'll just keep spending the way we're spending or doing what we're doing. I don't think the average person realizes how that still does harm with something like the military budget in particular. This military budget needs to be rebalanced, rejiggered. They need to shift money around to fund new priorities, stop shortfalls, etc. You need to do more than just keep spending the way you're spending. You need to rebalance this military budget, and this is a military that has been at war for 20 years now.
100%. So, for example, the Secretary of the Navy in testimony before the last Congress said, as a result of continuing resolutions, we put $4 billion. $4 billion. So that would build about 5 small surface combatants, which is what we build up in Northeast Wisconsin and Marinette. $4 billion in a trash can, and we lit it on fire. So let's say you're a fiscal hawk and you want to spend less on the military. Well, you should not be in favor of a continuing resolution, because a continuing resolution is not a way to save money. It's a way to waste money, and ultimately it just weakens our military strength, and it creates an atmosphere where we're going to have countries like Russia and China try and test us. So this is a difficult thing to explain. The budget process is very arcane and boring, but it's really important.
And this is the real world effect of this impeachment nonsense. And I've been talking about it. My listeners know where I stand. But for you, I mean, I see the Democrats in the media keeping insisting that they have something big, some proof of bribery, crime, or some other unethical, impeachable offense. So far, I'm struck by how they're taking such a huge step, impeaching a president for only the third time in our history, and they're doing it on such a weak scaffold. I mean, it's clear they just want to impeach this guy. They have no real evidence of anything. It's hearsay from disgruntled staffers. So I just thought I'd conclude here by asking, your opinion of where this goes. Do you think that this ends up with some sort of conclusion before Christmas? Do they drag this into next year? Do you have a guess?
It's going nowhere other than to allow Adam Schiff, who has lost all credibility and I believe is lying to the American people about simple facts like that he doesn't know who the whistleblower does. He obviously does. To allow him to raise a ton of money off this issue and to allow Nancy Pelosi to poke the president for 2020. I hate to be cynical, but it's not going anywhere. I think they'll have to hold a vote in the House that'll put a lot of their members in Trump-held districts in a lot of awkward positions, but then in the Senate, it's dead on arrival, and the practical outcome will be to make an already dysfunctional Congress even more dysfunctional and sclerotic, and that's unacceptable. So reasonable people can disagree about what constitutes an impeachable offense. However, in this case, I do not think it's warranted, if for no other reason than we have a presidential election in less than a year. And if you're going to go down this radical path, you have to have clear and convincing evidence, and we do not have that right now.
Yeah. Thanks so much for your time this morning, sir. I appreciate it.